bar.
That extra gear, the first 3 steps.
Huge strides in the performance.
That I might not be the player I am today.
All right, welcome to another episode of Behind the Gear, and today we're sitting with Jordan Laroche, and Jordan has more passports than I have fingers and toes, I think. But for anyone who doesn't know, Jordan is a youngster finishing up school here, and I'm really excited to have you on, Jordan, because I got to know or meet you a while ago. Family's from Canada, and you were born and raised in Hong Kong. First thing, I guess, for you, how's everything going here? How's school going? How's everything kind of finishing up for you?
Pretty good. We're kind of getting the end towards the school year now. Like trying to find a job in this time it's been a little stressful, but
For sure.
I'm happy to say I've got a few leads now. I'm working on a few things, and hopefully I can come out with this with a job or a career.
Awesome. No, it's great, man. And I know, like you said, kind of coming out right now, I think a lot of youngsters coming out of school, and you correct me if I'm wrong, but not that they expect, but you feel like, okay, I put my time in, I did my schooling, now, okay, where's my job that pays me like 70, 80 grand a year and pension and the whole nine? Now, what's the mindset of a lot of youngsters coming out of school right now? Is it?
I mean, a lot of people are kind of down right now. I know a lot of people are struggling to find jobs. A lot of my buddies are. And, just kind of, we've been doing this for 4, some of us 5 years now. Just in and out of school every day, and we're kind of ready just to move on with our lives, and whether that's a career job or bartending or waiting tables. I think anyone's gonna be happy with any job they can get. I have buddies who are software engineer majors who are applying to be bartenders downtown London. So
Really, eh?
It's tough for some people.
Oh, it's crazy, man. I'll just get you to slide that up, or slide up a little bit, yeah. Just because you got good pipes, I want to hear them. Now, Hong Kong. So let's go into a little bit, and I got to know you a little while ago. You came over here to come to the academy and kind of get hockey and come back to Canada where your parents are from. And, obviously going through that. Now, you don't know anything different. Hong Kong's home for you as far as, born and raised. When you came to Canada from Hong Kong, what were some of the biggest differences between being, living in Hong Kong, having your kind of routines there, to Canada? Was there anything that was like kind of eye-opening or very, very different as far as just living?
Well, when I first came to Canada, I didn't really come to Canada. I was in boarding school. So our day was essentially planned out from morning to night. Yeah. So I didn't really get full experience there. But, we travel for hockey and all that. So I got to see, I was in Stanstead College, a small boarding school in small town Quebec.
Yeah.
We traveled all around that kind of southern area, see all these small French towns. And I mean, some people might not consider that Canada, but, it's definitely, it was eye-opening for me. Just the everyday life of talking to the Canadians, I guess, just felt different for me, and it wasn't too much of a change for me. I spent time here growing up, but it was still definitely a big change for me, definitely.
Yeah, just as far as probably just like the day-to-day traffic, the way people interact, all that kind of stuff, I'm sure is quite different, right?
Yeah, Hong Kong, you're walking down the street, no one bats an eye at you. There's too many people on the street to begin with. But, just looking at it now, it was definitely the biggest change I'll probably ever have to make in my life.
Yeah.
Going from an 8 million person city to 1,000 person small town Quebec to now London, Ontario. It's definitely been a wealth of experiences for me.
Totally, man. No, for sure. Now you mentioned kind of playing at Stanstead and stuff, and obviously, your family's provided some opportunities for you to travel, and I think overseas is a little bit different than Canada, where overseas it's very common for people to be traveling and going on vacations and checking out different countries. And, it's not that it's easier to get around, but I think to some extent it's a little bit cheaper sometimes to get flights from, to Thailand or Taiwan or wherever. Whereas in Canada, you want to go from Vancouver to Halifax, you might as well remortgage your house because it's going to cost you a little bit of money to get across the country, So for you at a young age, you've had a chance to see a lot of different countries, right?
Yeah. Yeah, no, so I played hockey in 10 different countries alone, and obviously I've done more traveling aside from that, but, growing up in Southeast Asia, we spent a lot of time in Thailand, we spent a lot of time in Malaysia, Japan, those places, so we were there for tournaments, we were there for holidays, so, it was easy to kind of just get to those places. I compare it a lot to, say, someone from London playing for the Junior Knights, going to Buffalo for a tournament, whereas they'd probably do a 3-hour drive.
Yeah.
Whereas we do a 2-hour flight.
Okay.
That's the only real difference there.
Yeah. And it's kind of common, right? You just put the bags on the plane and fly to wherever you're going to be playing your tournament or your event, right?
Exactly. It's probably even weirder for them because they've never seen a hockey bag or a hockey stick before.
Right.
So they stick these big fragile stickers on all the hockey sticks and all the hocky bags, but it's really not,
Yeah,
really
it's
not that fragile.
Right. Now, in Hong Kong, what's hockey like in Hong Kong? Because I know your dad was pretty immersed in it as far as helping out with the minor hockey system there and being involved with some of the organizations. You obviously played all the way up. What was it like? Like, what was hockey like? Were there, like, let's say Hong Kong, so 8 million people, big city, obviously, probably twice the size of Toronto. So for people in this area or in Ontario, you know, maybe 2 or 3 times the size of Toronto as far as population, right?
Yeah, probably not that big, but like it's bigger than Toronto, more populated than Toronto.
And how many arenas roughly in
Probably 3 or 4
in that entire place,
and
right?
only one that's NHL sized. All the others are smaller rinks.
Right. So yeah, which is, and you think of any kind of Canadian city. I mean, London itself probably has 20 to 30 rinks within a 15-minute drive.
I mean, we're in a building with 4 rinks,
Right.
5 rinks.
Very good point. There's 4 rinks that we can hit a golf ball to right now. Yeah. So, I mean, that is crazy, right? When you have that much population. So how hard was it to get ice time? And was ice time a massive luxury to have? Or, you know, like, were there a lot of people playing hockey, a lot of minor hockey going on in men's league and stuff like that?
I mean, there is a lot of hockey going on there, but ice time is definitely expensive. I think an hour of ice, when I was there at least, was $1,500 Canadian.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So anybody here that's complaining about $200, $300,
Like you have no idea.
yeah.
But like you really had to spread yourself out with hockey in Hong Kong. Like I was playing probably 4 or 5 times a week for 4 or 5 different leagues, 4 or 5 different teams.
Right.
I was playing men's league. I was playing minor hockey. I think I was a call up for their semi pro league when I was 13. So you do have to kind of reach out there with Hong Kong.
Now, for you, you're a goaltender. So were you kind of at a premium as far as everyone needs a goalie? Everyone was looking for a good goalie. So was it kind of easier for you to find ice and find teams because they're like, yeah, we need a tender for sure.
100%. Like I played 2-3 games a night sometimes.
Yeah.
I got called in early. I'd hang around the rink for few hours, but you know, no, like being a goalie probably give you more ice time than I would have as a player especially in Hong Kong, which isn't really the case here, I don't think.
No, for sure. Now, in that hockey, like you obviously played and were doing well and developing well, and then you kind of got on that kind of national program line a little bit, right, with Hong Kong, as far as just being in the mix a little bit as one of their up and coming prospects and stuff. Correct?
Yeah. So when I was must have been probably 15 or 16 at the time. Like the national team was doing fine, but I kind of really wanted to play for it. Like, why not, right? I think I could probably make it. And I went through this whole process of trying to get my Hong Kong passport. I'm a permanent resident, but I don't have the passport. There was a rule that I had to be ethnically Chinese to get the passport.
Oh, okay.
So I went through the process of trying to become a Chinese national, trying to get all this stuff done, and trying to get like an athlete's exemption to get the passport. And then we went through this, probably took a year to get through. And through this time, I was practicing with the team. We played, I think, 1 tournament in China. But at the end of that year, it kind of got to a point where they said you have to get rid of both your Canadian and Australian passports if you want a Hong Kong passport.
Okay.
And it's definitely not worth the risk. Like even trying to get a Canadian passport back, that could have taken another year or 2. So
it wasn't worth it to give those up. Now, for anybody who's kind of lost, like I was at the beginning, but so your mother's Australian,
and
then your father's Canadian, and you're born in Hong Kong. So you got the globe pretty much somewhat covered here, right? You got arms spread everywhere.
Each corner of the world.
Yeah, exactly. Now Australia, you've been to Australia, I'm assuming, to see family and stuff?
Yeah, last time I was there was probably a year before this all hit, the pandemic hit. So
cool.
Yeah, no, I haven't gone back as much as I'd like to, but I have played there. A couple years ago, they have a pro league down there. I had tried out for the Melbourne Ice.
Yeah.
So like even there, hockey's kind of growing too.
Yeah, and it's funny because there are guys in Canada and the US that, because their league's different. Their winter is our summer, so there are a lot of guys who go down and play their winter league in Australia, and more for the experience. I don't think there was a lot of money there, but it was just living in Australia, hanging out and seeing a different country, and then come back and play pro in North America or Europe or whatever's going on, depending on the seasons, right?
Yeah, like the team I skated with, Melbourne, they had an association with the team in, I think it's Division 2 in Sweden. And a lot of the guys, just during the summer, they go to Australia, and then when September hits, when their season starts, go back to Sweden.
Yeah, it's crazy, right? And this is something too for parents and players out there. Like, there's so many other avenues of hockey that we don't think about being stuck in the Canadian bubble or the North American bubble, right? We think of the AHL, the NHL, college hockey, junior hockey, but there's little pro leagues all over the place, right? And Hong Kong, you said they had some semi-pro. Did they have any? Because I know there's a KHL team. Is it
Beijing?
Right. So was there anything like maybe not KHL, but any kind of pro leagues going on in Hong Kong or anywhere around that area?
Not really.
No.
It's called the CIHL in Hong Kong. That's the semi-pro league. It's more of a glorified beer league. But it's contact hockey. There's 4 teams. Teams probably have 2 lines each. So like and they're not getting paid.
Okay.
So a lot of these guys are like 30, 40 working already. So
yeah,
it really is more just a contact hockey league than it is a pro league.
And are most of the players on those teams, are they expats? Are they locals? Are they, what are kind of the makeups of some of these kind of we'll call them kind of semi-pro teams? What's the makeup of them?
I think at the start you had a lot more Westerners, but now kind of as these kids that are in the minor hockey program now, as they get older, they're starting to play now. I saw a couple of photos from the league that a lot of kids that I used to coach are now playing in the league now. Cool. Which is really, really cool to see. But yeah, like it is good hockey. You have some guys who played Division 1, NCAA, OHL, Senior A out here. Yeah. So it is a good level of hockey, but it's not a full-fledged pro league or anything.
League. Now, do they get fans? Like if you went to a game on a Friday or Saturday night, would there be any fans or not really?
Probably not.
Okay. which is fair. It's fair. And some of the pro leagues, let's be honest, don't get a ton of fans either. Yeah. And in Europe, there are a lot of you got your DL, let's say, then you got your second division, third division. And when you start going down that ladder in a lot of the European, we'll call them professional leagues, it is kind of a glorified men's league. I've had buddies go over and play just to get their feet wet and see what it's like in Europe. And like, man, Blazer, we're playing in like an outdoor rink basically, or one of them was like an old curling rink that's an ice rink / curling rink. And, there's some different setups out in Europe for sure. So I'm sure in Hong Kong it's no different as far as just having kind of a glorified men's league that is organized with jerseys and refs and all that good stuff, right? Yeah. Now for you, the one thing that we talked a lot about, and when I first met you, this is one thing that stood out to me is, being a younger guy, I think I probably met you at 14, 15, but you were pretty mature, meaning you were independent. Like you've traveled a bunch on your own. And this is something that as a parent myself with young kids, you're always tentative of like, man, at 10, 12, do I let my kid go on their own? And before we got on the air, you were talking a little bit about, well, in Hong Kong, you've got to learn how to take public transit. You've got to learn how to take, go on your own. So I'm assuming at like 10, 11, you were kind of cruising around on your own, going to school or coming back or going to different things, right?
Yeah, exactly. Because both my parents worked when I was growing up. So they were both gone out of the home until later in the afternoon. We did have someone at home to kind of like take care of things. Yeah. But I was taking the bus to and from school every day. I was taking the train if I had to. Cabs, and like you kind of do have to, just because Hong Kong, it's the driving age is 18. Okay. So you're not gonna get a license. I didn't get my license when I was there. Yeah. But yeah, no, the public transport's great there. I relied on it almost every day. Yeah, no, it's cool. So like for you, at what age did you take your first flight? Like you're on your own on your flight. I know there'd be somebody waiting for you at your destination and someone bringing you to the gate when you took off. But even still, being on a plane for 1, 2, 3, 12, 15 hours, depending on where you're going, is still, a little bit intimidating for a kid. But how old were you when you kind of took that first flight? I was probably 13 or 14. It was to London. I flew to Toronto, then came to London. For a summer camp. But yeah, no, I've been doing that. I did that every year essentially for 14, probably until I moved here. It's at 16. So yeah, it was a little scary at the time, just kind of, being on a flight with 2 strangers for the first time, but I know I made it. So yeah, you're still here, so we're good. We're good. But I think that's something that we not lack, but it's something that we need to go back to a little bit. I know when I was young, we played on our own. We were independent. We biked across our city. I'm from Sudbury, a smaller town, but still, like we biked in traffic, to one buddy's place to another buddy's place, or
wherever we were going, you know what I mean? And now I think we're a little bit more reserved as parents, and I think we need to get back, there's a fine line there, but I think we need to get back to allowing our kids to have a little bit more independence.
Yeah, I think the pandemic's probably gonna be a big part of that too, just because, especially now, you want to let your kids out with this thing out there,
right? For sure.
And I like we're all gonna have to change once this kind of lightens up.
Yeah.
I spent the last year essentially in my apartment.
Yeah, it's crazy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, what you're saying is our parents are getting softer, and this pandemic's not going to help us get any tougher.
Pretty much, yeah.
All right. So any parents out there, we're going to make a better effort here to get our kids outside on their own, just ripping around town. Yeah. So we talk about, obviously you've had a lot of great opportunities from your parents, like allowing you to travel and sending you to London for a hockey camp and getting you to Stanstead at a private school and coming here to do training and all that kind of stuff. And a lot of times, when parents are doing things like that, they send their kid to academy or they send their kid to something like that or fly them to Calgary to do a hockey camp. You're going to get heat from other parents saying, "Oh, you're crazy. What are you doing? Why are you doing that? Oh my God, you're spending all this money. Why?" And you're going to get judgy from a bunch of different people, which is brutal. Just stick to your own thing. I'm doing this for my kid. This is what I'm doing. But for you, I know, you had an opportunity through all this, training and all that stuff to play some junior hockey and stuff, which is awesome, which is amazing. But was it more than that for you now, looking at it kind of as, coming out of it now, you're a couple of years removed and going to school? What were those life experiences like, going to Stanstead, traveling on your own, coming to meet a bunch of people in London, train with them? Like, was it more about the life experiences now that you look at it than necessarily trying to play in the NHL for hockey?
Yeah, 100%. Like I wouldn't be in the position I am today if I stayed in Hong Kong. That's for sure. I wasn't a great student when I was back there.
Yeah.
But coming to Stanstead, it kind of, I wouldn't say whipped me into shape, but it kind of did.
Yeah.
Kind of like it forces you to be on top of your school. It forces you to kind of manage all your priorities, just because they, from 3:30 after school to this time you have practice, and then from 7:30 to 9:45 you're at your desk and you can't move. Essentially, you have to do your homework.
Right.
So
totally, yeah.
I learned a lot from my time at Stanstead, and then coming out here, just kind of breaking out of that kind of private school shell. Like we were a small school of only 200 people. I went to Western University at the time in residence, and just it kind of opened my eyes to a lot more than that I had at my boarding school.
For sure. Yeah. And you're right. Because I think a lot of times when you do go to a private school or a hockey academy, you kind of are in a little bit of a bubble, right? You're in that, like, you're protected. You got good teachers, you got hopefully good coaches around you, good strength coaches. So you're in that. And like you said, your schedule is kind of all set up, right? You got, training at this time, school at this time, skate at this time. So there's not a lot of thinking outside the box, really. And then you go to Western. What was it like your first year at Western, going from that structure to now basically, if you don't want to come to class, don't come to class. If you don't want to, you know what I mean? What was that like?
It was really bad, to be perfectly honest.
Like most people, right? Like,
I want to say that there was no accountability, but there's nothing compared to what it was at the boarding school. Like if you didn't show up to class, the whole school is looking for you. Where here, like I miss a class, no one bats an eye. Yeah. I'm one of like 80 people in a classroom. Yeah. Whereas I was one of like 15 to 20.
Yeah, so that's a massive difference.
Yeah, I didn't do it the best I could, for sure. I looking back at it now, there were a lot of different things I could have done to, maybe I could have stayed at Western for longer. I could have done other things, but those are all the life experiences that led me to get to where I am with journalism now and kind of getting into this podcasting world.
Cool. No, it's awesome, man. Now, growing up as a kid in Hong Kong, right? What are the goals of young hockey players in Hong Kong? Like if I'm in Canada, I'm playing road hockey, or I'm on an outdoor rink, or you know what I mean? I'm dreaming of playing in the NHL. I just scored Game 7 goal for the 77th time in a row on my outdoor rink or on my backyard or whatever, right? What's it like in Hong Kong for those young players that are playing? Do they look at the NHL? Do they want to play in the NHL? Do they want to play on the national team? Are they looking at Olympics? Like what are some of the goals of some of those young kids?
I think the big one is the national team. Because there's only 3-4 rinks in Hong Kong. Like they're playing in all the same leagues we are essentially.
Yeah.
And just they're a little more cliquey, but they're still great guys and they're always around. So I think that's a big dream for Hong Kong players. But definitely coming to Canada, like there's a lot of unknowns. Like you don't really know how good you were essentially until you really kind of put both feet in.
Yeah, that's a good point. So and I guess the other thing, so what you're saying is in Hong Kong, the national team is kind of intermingled with the hockey, right? As far as they're practicing with certain teams that you probably were on the ice with. So you get to see, it's for instance, to put it in perspective, in Canada, you're not going to have the Olympic team or the national team like at a junior practice because that's the only ice they can get. You don't see those guys, and obviously a lot of them play in the NHL. So they're kind of, they're like heroes here. Whereas there, you're, hey, how's it going? You're kind of like, not that you know them, but you probably get to know some of them pretty well, and they're kind of in your bubbles a little bit, right?
Yeah, like I was pretty good friends with, I wouldn't say good friends, but like I knew both goalies pretty well.
Yeah.
I played against them. I practiced with them. One of them was my goalie coach for a little bit. So like they're a lot more accessible than say the Team Canada is or Team USA.
And it's probably motivating for some of the young players, right, to see these guys right beside you and on the ice. And, it's probably pretty motivating as a young kid seeing where you want to go and you're actually on the ice with some of these guys that are playing where you want to go.
Yeah, and a lot of it is like just because there are like small amount of rinks, like whenever they played, whenever they practice, we could watch.
Right.
And like they're right there.
That's cool. Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Now the other thing, so I guess what do most like, because you said I think this is very, very valid for a lot of different countries or a lot of different players. It's a measuring stick. If you go from Hong Kong to Canada, you're like, how do I measure up? Am I even a good goalie or am I even a good player? I don't know. Like I think I am. I tear it up in Hong Kong, but I don't know how that's going to translate with the Canadian players, right?
Yeah, like I said earlier, I came to summer camps when I was younger, so like I had a little more of an idea, but again, not really.
Yeah.
I had the coaches there say like I'm a AA goalie. Like, what does that really mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just a big unknown coming here. But definitely like a great call.
Well, that's awesome, man. And what do most of the players in Hong Kong do? So let's say you're, 14, 15, 16, 17. Are you staying in Hong Kong, going to school there? Are there university programs for the hockey there? Or are a lot of those real elite players in Hong Kong trying to get a scholarship in the United States or come to Canada to play junior or go to the States to play junior?
I don't know too much about it recently, but a couple of the guys that I played with, a couple of them went to prep schools in the States. A couple went to like Ontario Hockey Association. They were at prep school. And even there was my goalie partner actually. He signed with the D3 school. I think he's playing in Middlebury.
Yeah, totally.
So yeah, no, like there are guys who have made it. I played junior out here with a guy I grew up with in Hong Kong.
Cool.
So like we're everywhere, and it's kind of, I'm like I said earlier, I don't know too much about now, but definitely back then it was a lot more talked about. It was a lot more popular to come to Canada.
Oh, it's cool. And totally, like, it's hard, right? Because there are no real scholarships to Hong Kong University for hockey, right?
No,
you're not going to get any funding for that. So if you can get a D3 option or play some junior over here and maybe get a chance at a scholarship and stuff is obviously probably pretty huge for some of these young players.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Now going from, such a big city to smaller, centers, how did you find it fitting in with like the hockey community in Canada, going from kind of a, obviously big community as far as population in Hong Kong. I know the hockey community in Hong Kong's small. I'm sure you kind of knew pretty much everybody, or you're 1 degree away from everybody. But how'd you find that culture in Hong Kong for hockey compared to Canada? Was it a lot different, or was it kind of the same being in a locker room there to here?
I mean, right off the bat, definitely the team, the idea of the team is definitely much more closely knit here. Like I was playing like 3-4 different teams back in Hong Kong. So like I never really had like a core group of hockey friends that I was really close with. Yeah. That I got to grow up with. That a lot of them came in and came out, like their families moved for work or whatever.
Right.
But you kind of, just over time, like you kind of get to, like, we didn't have locker rooms either.
Okay.
So
where would you guys get changed and stuff then?
Wherever so like public skating rinks, they have those big open areas there.
Really? Eh?
So I missed out on all the locker room talk. I missed out on everything growing up. Yeah. So coming to Canada, that was definitely like, that kind of slapped me in the face. That was the first thing I noticed right away, and I kind of dove right into that. I loved it.
Oh, it's cool. And I mean, you put a bunch of girls together in a locker room or a bunch of guys together in a locker room, there's going to be some shenanigans and some silly stuff that's going to be done, whether it's pranks or jokes or someone singing or dancing. So you're right. When you don't have, like, when you grew up just getting changed in the lobby or coming to the rink half dressed, you miss out on that kind of camaraderie and that silliness that happens a lot of times in locker rooms, right?
Yeah, and like even like practices and stuff. Like most of our ice time was games too. So
Right.
Even just building more chemistry through practices and all that. I missed out on all that too.
Oh, that's cool, man. And then once you kind of got entrenched in the hockey here, how'd you find it overall, the adjustment? So, someone says, oh, I think you're a AA goaltender. You come over here, kind of get out on the ice with some of these players, especially even in Stanstead, kind of getting a bit of an idea. Was it kind of a correct measuring stick for you, or did you feel like you were behind or ahead of where you kind of thought you'd be?
I think it honestly went pretty well. At least in terms of my skill, not in terms of where I ended up. So like when I first came to Stanstead, it was around January of my grade 10 year. It was like a last minute thing. Their goalie got asked to play for Atlantic Team Canada.
Okay.
So they needed a backup for a tournament in Boston. I was in London at the time. I said, sure, why not? Went out there. We had my first practice the morning there when I got there, and I didn't feel out of place at all. After the tournament, coaches said they would have had no problem putting me in. I didn't get to play in the tournament, but again, they said they had no problem putting me in. So
good.
I didn't feel like I was out of place at all when I first got there.
Yeah, no, that's cool. And then in London, you had an opportunity to play some junior C and a little bit of junior B and stuff. What were those experiences like for you? As far as that's good hockey, obviously, especially as you go up to B and then kind of beyond. But what was that like as far as that level? Was it pretty? Like, were you ready for it, or was it a bit intimidating, or was it pretty good?
Yeah, I think at that point I was definitely ready for it.
Yeah.
I spent 3 years at Stanstead. I was working my ass off in the summers.
Yeah.
I just spent like the last 3 months before that just grinding, like doing nothing else.
Yeah.
So I was definitely ready when I came into those, but I wasn't really ready for what happened next because I bounced up and down. I got moved to backup. I got traded twice. My second year junior.
Yeah.
I got injured. So that I was definitely going into that. I was excited. I was ready to go, but definitely what that had in store wasn't. I don't think anyone could have really been ready for.
Yeah, and those experiences are hard, man. Like getting traded sucks. Sometimes it's a good thing. You get to a different situation and you get a new opportunity, which is great. But even anytime I think a player gets traded, unless they hate the situation they're in and they want to get out of it, if you're kind of happy and things are going okay and then you get traded, you feel like, okay, they didn't want me. And, there's all these thoughts that go through your head, right?
Yeah.
And it makes it tough, especially at a younger age for sure. And then once you were done, did you kind of come to a crossroads where you're like, I think I'm done playing? Or was it something that was kind of the decision was made for you? Or were you trying to pursue other things kind of post junior?
It was kind of made for me. Like I said, I got injured my last year. I had 2 concussions that season.
Okay.
And the second one, I was like, yeah, no, that's it for me. That was probably my 4th or 5th registered concussion.
Okay.
So I knew that at that point I was kind of getting towards the end anyway.
Yeah.
I'd just been moved to the backup spot. Team signed a new goalie. I think 2 weeks after I got traded there.
Right.
So the writing was on the wall, and I was ready to kind of move on from it.
Yeah. And concussion. So a lot of people wouldn't even know, but how does a goalie get a concussion? We know that obviously you get run over sometimes. That'll definitely cause it. But what are some of the ways that you've gotten concussed in that?
I took a puck to the dome, just in a weird spot.
Yeah.
It was a call up in a practice, actually.
No way.
Yeah.
Oh, brutal.
But some of my other ones I got from lacrosse. I got from football.
Yeah.
They not all of them were necessarily hockey concussions.
Right. But I think it's we kind of take it for granted with goaltenders because you guys get hit in the head a lot, man. And the way the masks are built and the helmets are built, it's made so that the puck will deflect off. So it's not going to hit you direct and make a direct impact. It'll kind of skim off. But you're going to get some sometimes directly in the forehead or directly in the mask. And how bad does that hurt and ring and kind of get your ears buzzing?
It really depends on the shooter.
Yeah.
I remember skating here a couple of times. With some of the NHL guys, I get one off the chin or whatever, and my ears are ringing for a little bit. My bell was definitely rung, but some of them, you have lingering dizziness, which is what happened with one of my concussions.
Yeah.
That year, and then sometimes you just move on. You have the ring for a second, and then you're good to go.
Just keep going. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now post hockey, so kind of figuring out, what I'm going to be done with it. How did you decide that you wanted to get into journalism and kind of all that because that wasn't originally your plan, right? When you were kind of done school, you had a couple other options, a couple other things that you were going to go into as far as kind of a field. But how'd you end up kind of morphing over to journalism?
When I first got to Western, I was doing sociology, which again was a lot of reading, and I didn't really like it, to be perfectly honest. But I spent some time there. I kind of looked at Stanstead College too. I did a year in hospitality management. Yeah. Again, same thing. Just wasn't for me. Yeah. And I was talking to my buddies. It was one of my buddies who actually recommended it to me. He said, like you're listening to all these podcasts, you're doing all this stuff, like why not check out journalism? I'm like, it was one of those things for me. It's like I'm not totally sure if I was comfortable with it. Yeah. Talking on the radio, putting all my work out there essentially. Sure. It definitely was scary kind of getting into it, but like the school was really good with kind of grooming us, teaching us everything that we need to know. Yeah. In terms of writing, audio production, recording, on the radio work, and yeah, it's again like I said, it was the right call, and I think my past experiences at Western and with hospitality, like that kind of it allowed me to kind of explore other options and say like, okay, no, I'm comfortable with not pursuing that. Right. Whereas now I get to do this, and it's great.
Oh, that's good, man. That's really good. And it's always fun when you find something that you're passionate about, obviously, right? If you love doing it and you enjoy it, then that makes it so much easier to pursue as a job or as a career, right? The one thing though, so as a dad, as a father, I have young kids, right? So, and I'm going to be fine with this, but I know I'm going to, in the back of my mind, I'm going to be really pissed if my kids go to school for a year or two and I spend the money on tuition, or they do with jobs, whatever, and then they decide, I don't want to do this. Yeah. And then they go to another program. They're like, I don't want to do this. Like those are going to be some hard conversations I'm going to have with my kids. Like figure this out. But well, I guess two questions. So how did your parents handle it when you like, I'm gassing sociology, I do not want to do this? Like, was it like, yeah, no problem, buddy, do whatever you want? Or was it like, hey, like figure out what you want to do and pursue the next thing? Like, what was that conversation like?
Like even from when I was first applying to colleges, my parents were pretty open and kind of like, because I didn't really know what I wanted to do to begin with. Like I was 18. I don't think any 18-year-old really knows what they want to do. Sure, yeah. So I thought I'd get in with something general, just kind of get my place in the school, and then once I was in, I could kind of like branch out, try different things. Yeah. But my grades weren't great to begin with, so I eventually had to leave. But it was, yeah. Was it? I don't know where I was going with that, but
but yeah, but like even like your parents, they were pretty supportive about the whole thing. Like as far as now, would you have any advice for young people that are kind of getting into university? Like, because my thing too, like, and this is what I'm saying now, I'm 10 years away from my kids going to school. So in a decade, a lot can change. But if my son or daughter isn't 100% sure about going to school, I'd probably be like, don't go. Like, go get a job, work, go travel, do something else rather than spinning your tires at school with doing stuff that you're going to hate, and it's just going to stress you out, and it's going to, you know what I mean? Yeah. So like, would you have any advice for young people kind of going through it? Like really kind of maybe even research what you want to do, or, I had a friend of ours, their daughter was looking at going to school, and we were chatting or whatever this a while ago. And he's like, yeah, I think I want to be, I can't remember even exactly what it was, but whatever it was, I was like, well, have you looked up like what they make or what you need for schooling? No, not really. Yeah. So I started looking it up, and the max salary was, let's say it was 60 grand. It wasn't a lot, right? 60, 70 grand. Like, that's all you can. I'm like, well, you got to know, like, look this stuff. Why you're going to go spend 80 grand on school and then you don't even know what you're going to, you know what I mean? Like you're going to figure out along the way. But so I guess what advice would you have for those young people that are maybe not sure about what, because you were in that boat where like everyone else going to university, may as well go to university.
Yeah. Like that was exactly it. Like, we got into this norm where you have to go to high school, then you have to go to university almost straight away. When I think it's definitely a marathon, it's not a sprint. Yeah, for sure. Take your time, kind of figure out what you really love in this world, and there's some program out there that will help you kind of navigate that and turn that into a career. But it's I did 5 years of post grad, so it's university and college. Yeah. Most people do 4, but even doing that 5th year, like it really wasn't that bad. Like more people now are doing 5th years, 6th years. I had a buddy last year in his 7th year, but
and he's not a doctor or a lawyer.
No. No. So like I definitely don't rush into it. That's the biggest thing you can do. Yeah. Like if you want to travel for a year, if you want to work for a year or two, that stuff's all fine. But just don't force yourself into it.
No, definitely. And do you have a lot of buddies right now that are like? Do you have any buddies that are or people that that are kind of going the unconventional route, meaning not going to university, not going to college, and they're doing startups, or they're techie, or they're writing code, or they're doing like, do you know any guys and girls that are doing that? Because that's another thing too, right? You hear about these stories about maybe a couple generations ago, but these people that dropped out of high school and they're multimillionaires, or this person that dropped out of first year college because they hated it, and then they developed Apple, like whatever that is, you know what I mean? So do you still seeing that a little bit?
At this point right now, no, because like I spent the last 5 years here. A lot of my friends were already at school.
Yeah.
But in terms of like taking a year off, like I don't know too many people have done that.
Yeah.
Like once they're in, they kind of want to get done.
Sure.
That's the big thing. Like they'll do an exchange or whatever, but they do just want to kind of get in and get out.
Yeah. Is the mentality right now for your generation to like, you got to get some kind of paper, you got to get some kind of degree or some kind of diploma or something? Yeah,
like it doesn't matter what it is, just as long as it's a piece of paper from a university or college, then you're good to go.
Basically, yeah, it's kind of crazy, right? And I have mixed views on this. I went to university. I have a brother that went to college. I have a sister that went to university. And I don't know, there's a lot of different ways to go. I think both are good for college, university. But I think sometimes too, I was just talking to a guy who's just graduating from university, and he's got one more credit to take, and it's some like bogus class. But he's going to have to spend $1,500 or $2,000 on this class that he needs just to get that credit, that check mark, so he can graduate. And it's, how much of it is a cash grab? You know, how much of it do you really need? How much are you going to retain? You know what I mean? Like when you think of sociology, like was that stuff really grooming you into being, professional in that? I know you have to do post grad after that, but you know, it's,
a lot of the programs that like I've seen, it really differs. Cause like when I was in sociology, like we pretty much just had a teacher reading the textbook to us. Right. Like I wasn't retaining any information at least, but yeah, no, like it was definitely, but that switched to Fanshawe, that definitely kind of switched things up because it was a lot more hands-on. Okay, cool. Like my second year, all the assignments we were doing, they weren't for like school. Like they were getting posted online. They were going on the radio. We were live on the radio every day. So like,
and creating your own content, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, that's cool.
Building our demo reel, building our resume, and like, like I feel more ready for the real world now than I did at that 2 years of Western for sure.
Oh, that's cool. Now you said, being in journalism and kind of probably being a little bit tapped in with like the social aspect of life, right? Like your social media, things like that. I'm an old guy, so I'm an old bugger, so I need a little bit of help here. But what are some of the stuff that you're listening to as far as podcasts? Like give me a couple of your top 2 or 3 podcasts that you like or that you're kind of listening to, aside from this one, of course. But no, I'm just kidding.
The main ones are Barstool podcasts. Yeah. There's 2 that I really like, Spin Chicklets and Pardon My Take. Mm-hmm. They're really kind of pushing the button in terms of podcast innovation, social media engagement. Them, and there's another guy like Pat McAfee. He was a punter in the NFL for a while. Okay, he's a big personality, great guy, really funny. But yeah, no, like they're really kind of pushing the button for like kind of how podcasts should be now. I'm not even watching full episodes anymore. I'm watching 10-minute clips online.
Really, that's the thing now, eh? He's ripping, yeah. Yeah, because you see a lot of that. Even like Joe Rogan's a guy I've followed for a long time. Obviously, he's a massive following and podcast. But that's the one thing you can see is like the JRE clips where it's just like 20 minutes of something or 10 minutes of something or 5 minutes of something. Because some of his podcasts are 2-3 hours. I personally, again, being an old bugger, I like long ones and I'll listen to them over 2 days, in the car or going for a run or working out or whatever. But I've absorbed more podcasts in the last 5-6 years. That's probably my main source of content that I take in is podcasting, more than music, more than radio, more than anything like that. And I really enjoy, kind of getting to know people, obviously, but I enjoy conversation. I enjoy hearing and learning some different things from different stuff, different people, you know what I mean? And Barstool is one I've gotten into just in the last probably 6 months, and more because the story of Dave Portnoy and how he built that company, right? Yeah. Now he's a beauty and he's a personality, obviously. The thing I like about him is he's very honest. He tells it like it is. He doesn't, and he'll be the first to say, hey, Jordan, I was totally carving you yesterday because of what you did. You know what I mean? He's very honest about stuff, right? Which I like. Yeah. But man, the culture he's built there, and not that he's done everything perfectly. There's no doubt there's been mistakes along the road and stuff like that. But overall, like people seem to be, begging, scratching, stealing to try to work for him and try to become part of that company or part of that podcasting world and social media world, So he's done unreal job there.
Yeah. They built a platform where anyone can do there and do whatever they want, really.
Yeah.
They have everything from Twitch streams to podcasts to blogs to video content. Like, yeah, you really go there and explore your creativity.
And they've got stuff for everybody, right? From some of the podcasts for women, for men, for sex, for sports, for college ball, for like it's basically covers anything that you want to look at or listen to.
Yeah, exactly. And it's great. I love them. I used to read their blogs a lot.
Yeah.
But recently I've kind of made the switch away from like audio podcasts to more video. Yeah. Like in terms of me personally, I still do listen to podcasts in the car or whatever, but like the switch to video, I think now is going to be big for anyone. Really.
So, and I'm not, this is totally selfish. Anyone listening, you guys can shut it off now because I'm just digging for answers here from Jordan. But are most young, or most not young, but yeah, you're young. So most people your age, let's call it 20 to 30. Is that kind of the trend right now? Is more of them are kind of absorbing 5-minute clips, 2-minute clips, kind of more highlight clips of what they're into. So whether that's whatever it is, right? So is it more small quantities like that than like, like for instance, will you sit down at the TV and put on YouTube on TV rather than watching a show or watching a movie?
100%. Like sometimes I during the day, like if I want like a 20-minute break, I don't have time for like a 40-minute episode.
Yeah.
Like I'll put on like, like I have friends now watching video game content on YouTube, like for like PGA Tour. Like there's so much out there now that it kind of does get diluted, but like there's still so much growth to be had out there.
And it's more about building up a community, right? So for instance, you're a Barstool guy, you got the couple podcasts that you like, you're going to keep going back there because you like the people that are on it and what they're talking about or their personalities. And I think that's the biggest thing for a lot of people out there that are maybe getting into that social media world or that podcasting world or whatever it is being authentic to who you are, obviously, number one, but then also, I mean, let's be honest, a lot of these people that are doing really well in social media are putting out content like daily or multiple times a day, right? So kind of staying almost over the top relevant. I find it annoying because I'm old, but I think for the young people, you want more content, you want more clips and stuff like that, right?
Yeah, like it's at a point now where if something's 2-3 days old, it's not really.
It's old.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And like a lot of this, I'm comparing a lot to like Twitch streams kind of now because they're kind of taking off.
Yeah.
Where people just sit and play video games and they have thousands of people watch them all day.
Well, I heard like people being on that for like 5-6 hours in a row, like streaming live, basically.
I saw a video the other day. Some guy did 72 hours straight.
It's insane. Was he up the whole time or?
No, he slept for parts.
And people watch this.
Yeah. He was the biggest streamer on Twitch over the weekend.
No way. Yeah. Oh my God.
I think he peaked at like 70,000 viewers.
That's crazy, man.
Yeah.
That's nuts. And because I have a slight idea on this and you may not know, you may not. How do people get paid on things like Twitch? Is it people donate it, right?
Yeah.
People can donate money.
They have that. And then you have paid subscribers.
Okay.
So it's like they get like they don't get ads. They get a few other things. But it's like $5-6. Some of these guys have like 2,000-3,000 subscribers.
It's crazy. And then subscribers would get kind of like a back scene, right? Like that, or kind of a backstage pass, right? So they'd have no commercials. They'd probably get some extra content that this person's putting out, or
not even
not
any more
really,
content,
just the same thing, just no commercials. No,
pretty much, yeah.
Really,
yeah. You get like a couple of things and like you can use in chat, but like
right.
That's it, really.
It's crazy.
I know, and it's really taken the world by storm in the past year. So
yeah. No, it's nuts. It's nuts how the landscape continues to change. You know what I mean? It's crazy. Even with podcasting, like I've been doing this now for a couple of years, but there are, especially with the pandemic, there's hundreds of thousands of podcasts out there. Like I bet you it's close to 1 million podcasts out there. So now a lot of them, I find the biggest thing that separates them is the consistency. So if you have a podcast that you like that comes out every week, you kind of look forward to that Wednesday or that Thursday when it's going to come out, right?
Yeah.
If you come out twice a week, great. Especially if you can absorb that much content in a week, it's good. But it's that consistency, because I think a lot of podcasts where they've fallen off is they're not consistent every week. They miss a week or two, and then people, like you said, it's old news, man. If you're out for a week or two with no content, someone's going somewhere else, right? People are going to move around, and if they find something else they like, then that replaces what they were just watching or who they were just into. So it's nuts, man.
Yeah, no, like we're getting the same thing with school right now, because we cover 2 stories a day essentially, and we're emailing people for interviews, and that's the main source of our content, at least. And if we're looking at a news story from last week and the person didn't get back to us till, the next week, then that story is no longer really relevant.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's old news, right? You don't even want to hear about it anymore.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's nuts. So what's in store for you moving forward? So now that you're done school in kind of journalism, and what exactly is journalism? So journalism back in, again, I'm old. When I was a kid, was like, I'm going to see somebody with a little pad and a pen, and they're going to be writing stories down, and then they're going to go home to their typewriter and they're going to type the story out and they're going to send it to the editor, right?
Yeah.
Nowadays, what is journalism? So if you think of journalism in 2021, for a young guy like you, just kind of finishing up and probably wanted to get some work under you and kind of continue to build your portfolio, what is journalism? Like, what do you do?
I think now you're expected to do a lot more than just write. Now you're expected to interview. You're expected to produce audio content, video content. It's a lot more inclusive job now than it was, say, like 10, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And I think it's only going to keep going this way, where people are kind of leaving that journalist perspective and kind of they're becoming more personalities. They're becoming more like bigger name people now. So I think it's exciting where it's going, and I'm ready to be part of it.
You're right though, right? It's not just being a journalist or being a writer. It's being a personality. It's people get to know you through your blog or through your posts or through your articles or through your vlogs, whatever you're doing. But there's so many ways to be a journalist now, right? When you think about it, through video, through audio, through so many different avenues. So yeah, it's definitely an interesting time. And for you, what are some of the main things, like when you think of being successful in this industry, what are some of the main things that you're going to have to really dial in order to become successful at it? Whether you're jumping on with somebody else and helping them out, or you're doing your own thing, what are some things that are going to kind of separate, young journalists from the other ones?
I like you said, consistency, and just kind of working your behind off.
Yeah.
It's tough to say, but there's a lot. Like I said earlier, it's growing. There's a lot changing, and no one really can gauge an exact figure of where like a good journalist differs from a bad journalist.
Sure.
Kind of it's little things too, grammar, spelling mistakes.
Yeah.
If you stutter on the air, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
A lot of that does play into part of kind of getting into those next steps too.
Yeah, for sure. Right. You almost have to be pretty polished in whatever. If you're going to be a writer, be a really good writer. If you're going to be on a vlog or you're going to be on an audio, speak well. Try to. I totally agree with that. I think that's a.
Yeah, and now you're expected to do most of those things, if not all. So
right.
it just adds to everything.
Yeah, definitely. Who are some of the bigger influencers out there right now in your field? So in your genre, in that journalism kind of new age, who are some of the people that you kind of follow or look to? That have done a good job in that space. Is there anybody that kind of stands out for you?
Yeah, I've kind of fallen out of love with the TSNs and the sports nets. Kind of that. I someone had a really good analogy for it yesterday, like cartoon news. Yeah, where they're not really honest.
Sure, totally.
And a lot of it is ratings driven.
Yeah,
where I look at someone like I said, Pat McAfee or Barstool, where they're speaking their mind. They're being as blunt as possible. They don't care what other people think. And I think that's kind of the space I kind of want to go towards, where I do have a lot more freedom with what I can talk about and kind of my opinions and my feelings. And I won't get fired if I said something bad about LeBron James or.
Sure. Yeah, totally. Well, I think you're bang on, man. I think even the news, I would almost rather go to a YouTuber who has legit thoughts and ideas and is educated on news rather than listening to it from the CBC or whatever, because you're right. It's all PG. It's all, and it's clickbaity. So they're going to have a flashy title that is not even the story, but it's just kind of part of it. And you have to read the whole thing to understand it.
Be all caps in certain
right.
places. And
yeah, exactly. Right. And some of the titles you see on some of these articles and some of these clips, it's not even true, and when you look at it, it's like, that's not even what happened. It's almost like the National Enquirer. When you walking through the grocery store and you look at the magazine, it's like all these flashy headlines. You read the story, it's like, that's not even what it's talking about.
Yeah, no, I saw an article about a trans boy being abused, but it turned out he wasn't really trans. He was being accused of being trans or something like that.
Right.
So it's just you're getting away from that kind of honesty, and you're starting to see that a lot more. A lot of people are losing trust in journalism and kind of that cookie cutter news.
Well, and I think we're all craving honesty, right? Yeah. Especially through this whole COVID year. If if anyone's learned anything through COVID, it's that our politicians are a little corrupt.
Yeah.
There's a lot of backdoor stuff that's going on that we have no idea about, right? Like really,
Yeah.
I mean, everyone stay home. No one can leave. And then you got multiple political people flying to Mexico, going down to Florida. Like it's insane. And but they're the ones telling us a week ago to stay home, don't leave. You can't see your parents or family on Thanksgiving or Christmas, and they're leaving. Like it's unbelievable, you know? And so I think for anybody, you're always skeptical on the news and things. So when you find somebody online or somebody, you know, and I think for anybody, I think it's really important to do your research.
Yeah.
You know, you're not just going to believe the first story that you read, please. And we see this in social media, man. Someone sees a little clip of this interview or Joe Rogan's interview, and they take that little clip and like, he's misogynist. This is brutal. Well, they took it right out of context. It's not even the right piece. It's not even the whole story, and people are outraged. Well, do your homework, man. Like,
yeah, it's crazy to where it's gone, and like social media is just bashing some journalists at this point.
Yeah, for sure, yeah, and some of them rightfully so, because some of them are probably trying to get, you know, and let's be honest, not to take their side on it, but they need money, they need clicks, they need to sell so they're you know, getting a little bit sleazy on it, maybe.
They're getting a little skeptical, and like.
Right.
And, you know, for a story, say they interviewed this guy, but this guy he's not really involved, or he doesn't know the full story. So he's kind of just giving his 2 cents on it.
Yeah.
Where it might not be true, really.
So, no, 100%. And that's one thing I tell, like, if I'm talking to parents or kids or anything, kind of bring this back to hockey, but if I don't know the answer, I'll find it out.
Yeah.
I'm not going to bullshit my way through giving you some kind of an answer that may be kind of correct or not correct. But if I don't know, I'm not 100% sure. Like, I'll find out. Because there's nothing worse than regurgitating something that I've heard, which we've all done it many, many times, and it being completely false, and I'm validating it like I believe it. I heard it from this guy, you know, and it's like, well, maybe do a bit of research on it, make sure that is correct. You know?
Exactly.
Yeah. So as far as kind of you, I guess, personally moving forward, are you looking to maybe start a podcast? Are you looking to start to write? Are you going to, you know, kind of what areas are you really, really gravitating to, and what areas would you like to kind of pursue?
Yeah, like I think definitely at some point I do want to get into podcasting. Like I'm kind of looking at kind of getting into the audio production side, like making it sound good, social media aspect of things, kind of how to grow a brand. So like I still do have a lot of learning to do.
Yeah.
But I think definitely like I do want to get into podcasting. I do want to get into writing. Writing is kind of really where my heart is.
Cool.
But you know, like I'm happy to just have a job right now.
Yeah, totally. Right. And as far as writing, what stuff do you like to write about? Like, what is there any kind of, are you all over the map, or is it more sports? Is it more social stuff, or is it a kind of combination?
I do like to write about sports, but I'm kind of branching out. I've been learning a lot about esports in the past since the pandemic hit. When we went a few months without sports, there wasn't really anything else to watch.
Yeah.
So I took a deep dive into that. I'm a fan now.
Cool.
But yeah, no, like sports it's already established. It's an easy thing to write about. There's always something going to be happening.
Yeah.
And it's got a huge audience already.
For sure. No, definitely. The esports thing is one that's crazy to me, because over the last bunch of years, it is nuts how that's taken off. Like, and even, you know, I think there's a story that came out a couple of years ago now, but this young boy made $1 million playing video games online. So now any kid that goes to their parents, like, I want to be a gamer, parent in the past, like, get out of here, beat it. We're selling your PlayStation. This is ridiculous. You're on it too much. You know, now it's like, if you want to get good, you got to practice. So 8 hours a day on the, you know what I mean? And some of these kids are making money doing it.
Oh yeah. Like, in Toronto right now, they're building an esports arena.
Yeah.
It's $500 million facility next to where the TFC play.
And for those who don't know, it's basically going to be like an arena, like a stadium where fans can sit, and it's going to be all high tech, right? Like screens everywhere. And then you have your stage in the middle where all the gamers are. And we've seen this on TV, and a lot of people don't know this, but they're they're packing arenas, man. They're packing NHL arenas, college arenas that have a stage in the middle for the gamers, and screens are like, it's unbelievable, man. It's crazy.
And even now, there was a tournament, I can't remember if it was last week or the weekend before, 80,000 people on just on one platform, and they were streaming it to like Twitch, YouTube, all these different places, and
crazy.
Like just on one platform, they had over 70K.
That's amazing.
Viewers. So like it's big now.
That's huge. I had so one of the guys that works here, he's kind of same boat as you. He's kind of finishing school up, looking to, you know, kind of see what he's going to do next. And said, "Hey, Blazer, I applied for a coaching job for an esports team." It's like, no way. He's like, yeah. He's like, I just want to see what it's all about. He's like, I don't even know, like, I don't even play this game. But basically, these esports teams. So, for anybody who doesn't know, there's this, let's say, a team of 10 players that play this game, and they're a team, and they have a coach, they have like a mentor, and what they wanted was, and he had an interview, and he said the interview was pretty cool, and he almost like probably could have got the job, but basically what it was, they want someone to help these young, let's be honest, video game nerds that, sit in their basement. Like if you're really, really good at 16 years old, you spent countless hours in your bedroom, basement, wherever, chugging Mountain Dew, playing video games, right?
Yeah.
So they're a little different socially. So they want coaches that'll go in and like help them become a team, help them, kind of mend those relationships a little bit. And because as well as I do, whether you're gaming, playing darts, playing hockey, the tighter you are with your team, the better you're going to perform, the more, more fun it is. Right. So but it's crazy. Like all the thought that's going into this, these, famous people putting money into EA stuff or putting money into esports. It's nuts, man.
Yeah. I think Kevin Durant just bought into a New York Call of Duty team.
Crazy, right? Like,
Like it's drawing all kinds of attention. Like, some of these teams are signing like athletes as content creators.
Yeah.
I know Ben Simmons has a deal with someone. So like it's definitely gonna be here for a while for sure.
Yeah. And what do you think of these like influencers? So these people on social media like Instagram, Twitch, TikTok that have become huge because however they did it, whether it was a video that went viral, whether it's they're posing in bikinis all the time or they have their shirt off or whatever it is, they went viral, they're big, they got a big amount of following. What's kind of the opinion or the thoughts of kind of your generation on those influencers on social media? Is it a positive thing? Is it something that a lot of people follow because they are legitimately good? Is it fake as all can be? Like, what is it?
I mean, that also depends on who. Like some guy dancing shirtless on TikTok for 14-year-old girls. Like, it's like, come on. Like, I mean, at that point, it's kind of luck. Mm-hmm. You kind of have to luck into that because, I mean, there's probably thousands of guys doing that right now.
Totally. Yeah.
But then you look at kind of like, I look at Twitch a lot because these guys have kind of been around for a while now too. Like some of these guys have been doing this for 3, 4, 5, close to 10 years now, probably.
Right.
And they still have big followings and people still love them. So I do think there are some that probably more deserve. I don't want to say deserving, but
have worked hard for it, right?
Yeah. Whereas some people have just gone lucky, and luck is a big part of that.
Yeah, and the whole copycat thing is just disgusting to me. Like you have one person that puts out a viral video of a guy on a skateboarding to work, and then all of a sudden there's thousands of videos of people skateboarding, drinking grape juice. It's like what is you know what I mean? Like really, like it's already been done. Like figure something else out.
Yeah, like I still don't really know how I feel about those videos, but I mean, there's some where people put like a little too much effort into it for me. Yeah.
Oh, 100%. Like the moms that are all makeup up doing TikTok, like shooting guns and like, I'm just like, what's going on here?
Like
it's
I don't know what I'm watching anymore.
It's Sunday at 12 and you're fully makeup up with a sick outfit on. Really? Like that's how you came out of bed this morning? And now you got the camera in front of you with 14 filters on it and you're doing this like, yeah, it's disgusting.
And edited to the moon, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I think too, a lot of these influencers, for the most part, the ones that have success, like you said, like a little bit of longevity, it's not by accident. They're probably, whether they're authentic or not, they're appealing to a crowd that likes what they're doing, right? And they found their niche or they found their group that likes them and continue to try to grow that, right?
Yeah, and that's the same with anything, with podcasting, video game streaming or whatever. You really have to find your niche and then target and just keep targeting it.
Yeah,
try to keep your content within the boundaries that they like. You can explore a little bit. If it doesn't do well, maybe go back, and if it does well, keep doing it, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of it is like everyone's still trying to figure this out, and it's kind of it'll happen over time.
And it's kind of always like slightly evolving, right? Like for instance, now almost, and I've heard this from multiple people, but like TikTok is not as powerful as it was 6 months ago. Right?
Yeah.
Not that it's still not a great platform, 100% it is, but look at Facebook. Like Facebook 10 years ago was like hip, young, everyone was on it. Now it's like no young people want to go on Facebook. It's all grandmas and grandpas and dads and uncles. You know what I mean? So it's like the platforms change constantly, so it's when you think you have something under wraps, it's hard. And things are changing. So you got to kind of adapt with it a little bit for sure. But I think like we were talking about here, that authenticity is massive.
Yeah.
If you're authentic and you are, kind of being you and being real, I think there's nothing that can be substituted for that. There's no filter that's going to take that away.
Like, if you're going in front of the camera and acting for like hours on a day, like you're gonna get worn out.
For sure. Yeah, definitely. No, it's like trying to carry a lie. Like it's hard to carry a lie for a long time because you kind of, I totally get it for sure. Listen, buddy, I don't want to take up too much of your time. This was awesome.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me.
No, this is great. And one thing I really want to hammer with people is I wanted to have Jordan on because you're a well-rounded young man, and I've gotten to know you for a long time, and solid parents. And obviously your parents have provided a lot of opportunity for you and your sister to kind of spread your wings and try different things out. But the one thing I really want to really hammer home before we leave is a lot of the experiences that you've had as far as, going to prep school. A lot of parents be like, oh, it's a lot of money, or the travel, all this stuff. And I agree. I don't disagree with that. And not everybody can afford to do that. But when parents are looking at doing a prep school or a private school or an academy, or whether it's soccer, hockey, baseball, gymnastics, whatever it is, I feel that it's more about the experiences around that, going to a private school or going to an academy, rather than just doing it for just 100% hockey or just 100% baseball. You've got to meet a lot of different people, be in front of different coaches, live different life experiences. And I think a lot of those little experiences that you had along the way is starting to shape who you are as a young man, right?
Yeah, and kind of going there, like in my mind, I was going to play hockey, but my parents kept reminding me, you're going to meet new people, you're going to have all these incredible experiences that not many people are going to have, and I really do owe everything to them for that. But it was definitely I wouldn't be here, like I said earlier, if I wasn't if I didn't come to Canada, if I didn't put everything I had in hockey, for sure. And
I think you're bang on. I think as parents, your parents probably saw it bigger picture, where you saw it micro picture, where you're like, hockey, I want to play hockey, which is totally fine. But I think for parents out there, these to me are like life experiences that if we're able to do it, whether it's sending our kid to a summer camp for a week or 2 weeks, or whether it's sending them away to a private school or boarding school or prep school, I think depending on the kid, you were a mature kid who appreciated it and things like, obviously had a lot of that stuff going on, which is great. But if it's the right situation for the right person, I think it's more than just the sport. It's life lessons. It's kind of molding people into who they're going to become later on through those experiences, which is huge.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. We'll shout out to mom and dad, I guess.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
And actually, your dad texted me just wondering when you're going to pay him back for all the travels yet.
Not anytime soon.
Okay, all right. Yeah, need a job first. Well, thanks, buddy. That was awesome, man. I really appreciate you coming on, and best of luck with journalism. And hopefully, we'll be seeing some of your stuff out there.
Thank you for saying that. Thank you for having me. This has been a lot of fun.
Awesome, man. Thanks, buddy.
Yeah.
That bar,
that extra gear, that first 3 steps,
huge strides in the performance.
That I might not be the player I am today.